Hi everyone, it's Karen here from www.gethookedupcrochet.com. Otherwise, you know me on social media as @hookedupcrochet. If this is your first time visiting my channel, I'm so happy you're here. If you could go ahead and hit that subscribe button, you'll stay up to date with all my free patterns and tutorials. Today's tutorial is the Xtra AF Beanie, otherwise known as the Xtra and Fabulous Beanie. So let's go ahead and get our materials and get to making. For this tutorial, we're going to be making an adult-sized beanie, and the yarns that I use to make this beanie are listed as follows. First up, Red Heart Super Saver stripes in the color Retro Stripe. Y'all know I am such a fan of this color. I just love it so much. It's so bright and happy. Next up, I'm going to be using Red Heart Super Saver in the color Pretty in Pink. I love the way this color looks, especially paired with this Lion brand Go for Faux and this bright neon pink color. I just love the way this color combination looks, and it all works so well together. Now for this tutorial, I'm also using two different crochet hooks. I'm using my I hook and my J hook. Then I have my scissors, and you will also need some measuring tape and a yarn needle. So let's go ahead and get to making. Okay, to start off, you're going to use your brim color, and for me, I'm going to use the Red Heart Super Saver Pretty in Pink. I'm going to pull out some excess yarn so I have plenty to work with. And the first thing I am going to do is make my slip knot and insert my I hook into that. Okay, and now I'm going to chain 11 for the adult size brim. So we're going to chain 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Now, working from the second chain from the hook, we're going to work one single crochet in each stitch across. So there's 1, there's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, and number 10. Now from here on until you're all the way done with your brim, you're going to chain 1 and turn. Okay, for the rest of the brim, you're going to chain 1, like I said, and turn. Now you're going to work a single crochet in your first stitch. So there's number 1. Now in the next 8 stitches, we're going to work a single crochet in the front loop only. So there's stitch number 2, stitch number 3, stitch number 4, stitch number 5, stitch number 6, stitch number 7, stitch number 8, stitch number 9. Now in our last stitch, we're going to work through both loops. So we're just going to work a normal single crochet. Just like that, you're going to chain 1 and repeat this process until your adult size brim measures 19 inches long. So chain 1, turn, we're going to single crochet in the first stitch. The next 8 stitches, we're going to work in the front loop only. So there's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, and number 9. And then our last stitch, we're going to work through both loops, just like that. So you're going to continue on this process until your brim measures 19 inches long. So you may want to pause the video here because I'm going to speed things up, and we're going to come back and I'll have my brim all the way done, and I'll show you how to connect the ends. Alright, I've been working on my brim and I'm going to double check, but I'm right at 19 inches, and that's how long I want it for an adult size hat. And now I'm going to take the 2 ends and connect them together. And the way I do that is I will take this end, match it with this end, and then you are going to chain 1, and then you are going to slip stitch your 2 ends together. So you should have 10 slip stitches to connect your brim. So there's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to get in here. Straighten it out. Number 6. Ah, there it goes. Number 7. Number 8. Number 9. And number 10. Now what you want to do is flip your brim so it's right side out. We want that seam facing on the inside, so you're just going to flip it right side out, leaving your hook and everything still connected. Okay, to start round 1, I'm going to continue using my brim color. What we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, then evenly space out 61 single crochets around the top of our adult size brim. So you're just going to want to work these and evenly space them out. And you may want to pause the video here because I'm going to speed things up so you guys don't have to sit here and watch me work all 61 stitches around the top of my brim. So just evenly space those out and pause it, and when we come back I'll show you how to end this round. Okay, I've been working all the way around and I'm at my last stitch. Now you're just going to slip stitch to your first stitch to complete this round. So there's my first stitch. I located it right there. And now I'm just going to slip stitch to it. And now I'm going to trim off this brim color. So you want to use your scissors and just go ahead and snip this. Okay, like I said, I'm done with this color, so I'm just going to snip this. And then I'm going to fasten off and I'm going to drop this yarn. You can either weave it in at the end or you can crochet over the top of it. Either way works. So just like that. And then I'm not going to worry about those strings right now. Now taking my retro stripes, I'm going to attach my yarn, and the way I do it is I just slip stitch it to the first stitch like that. Now to start round 2, I'm going to move these strings out of the way. To start round 2, you're going to chain 2 and double crochet in that first stitch, just like so. Now we're going to skip the next stitch. Then in the next stitch, we're going to work the cluster V stitch. Slow this down so we could see it in slow motion. So you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, and pull up a loop. Next, you're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert your hook into that same stitch, and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 3 loops, chain 1. And we're going to do the same thing into the same stitch. Yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch, pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, insert your hook into that same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 3 loops, chain 1. And that is what your cluster V stitch should look like. We're going to do this all the way around. Okay, so after you make that cluster V-stitch, you're going to skip 3 stitches. So here I am, I'm moving those strings out the way, skip 1, 2, 3 stitches. Then in the next stitch, we're going to work another cluster V-stitch. So we're just doing that same stitch again, the cluster V-stitch, chain 1, and then I'm going to work back into that same stitch to work the other side of my cluster V-stitch, like so, chain 1, and now you skip 3 stitches and do the same thing. And we're just going to repeat this process all the way around until we get to our little last cluster V-stitch. So keep working your cluster V-stitches. If you need to go back and watch the slow-mo version of it again, feel free to do that. But you're just going to work this all the way around, and when we come back, I'll show you how to end this round. Okay, I'm coming up to the end of this round. I'm going to work another cluster V-stitch right here, and I should have one more after this. So here's another cluster V-stitch, chain 1, and I'm going to do the same thing into that same stitch. Here we go. Now I'm going to chain 1, skip 3 stitches, skip 1, skip 2, skip 3. Then in my next stitch, I'm going to work a cluster V-stitch, just like this. And as you can see here, I'm coming up to the end of this round, and after your last cluster V-stitch, you should be left with 2 stitches left. And here's what we're going to do in those last 2. So after your last cluster V-stitch, you're going to skip 1 stitch, then in your last stitch, you're going to double crochet. And that is how you complete the round. Now, we're going to slip stitch to our first stitch, and we're going to do a yarn / color change here. So instead of slip stitching with my worsted weight, I'm now going to grab my faux fur yarn. So I'm going to go ahead and pull all this yarn barf out. And when I'm doing color changes for the next row, I like to do it right before. It just makes it easier and cleaner. It's just something I prefer to do. So you don't have to fasten off, rejoin, and all that stuff. So now that I've got my yarn situated, I'm going to slip stitch to my first stitch using this Go for Faux. And when you do that, let me get this out of the way. Okay, and you see how my loop is kind of long there? If you take your worsted weight yarn like that and pull it, it'll pull it tight. That way you won't have a big gap. So now I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to pull up this loop just so I can insert my J hook. Because when I'm using the Go for Faux, I recommend you go up to a J hook, and as you can see, I just tightened it back up, so we're ready to go for the next round. Okay, to start round 3, you want to chain 1, which we already did. So here I am with my chain 1. Now I'm going to single crochet in my first stitch, just like so. Now in our next stitch, we're going to drop back down to our previous round and place a double crochet right there where we had previously skipped that stitch. So go back down to that previous round and place your double crochet right there in that skip stitch. Now we are going to single crochet in between the cluster V-stitch. So I'm just going to single crochet, then chain 1. Now we're going to go back down to that previous round again, find that center stitch that we had skipped before out of the 3, and place a double crochet right there. Then chain 1, and this begins the pattern repeat. You will single crochet in between the cluster V-stitch, chain 1. Then you will go back down to that previous round, place your double crochet right there in that center stitch, then chain 1. And you're just going to repeat this all the way around until you get to your last cluster V-stitch. So keep working this, and when we meet back, I will show you how to finish off this round. Okay, here I am coming up to my last cluster V-stitch. So first I'm going to place that double crochet right there. Then I'm going to chain 1. Now at my last cluster V-stitch, I'm going to place a single crochet right there like we have been doing. So single crochet. Then in our next stitch, we're going to place a double crochet right there in the previous round in that stitch we had skipped, and then single crochet. So we're going to double crochet right there, and then single crochet in our last stitch to complete this round. And that is the end of round 3. So now you want to slip stitch to your first stitch. And it can be tricky finding your stitches with this gopher faux, but just feel for them. And now I'm going to drop the gopher faux and pick up my other yarn and slip stitch to my first stitch. I'm going to pull up my loop just a little bit. That way I can insert my eye hook back in. And there you go. Now we're ready to start round 4. To start round 4, we are going to chain 1 and work 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around, resulting in 61 stitches. Now, this round can be a little bit tricky because we're working these single crochets into that previous faux fur yarn round. So I would suggest taking your time and just feel for your stitches. And as you can see here, that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm just feeling for each of my stitches, and I'm just placing 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. Now, if you're having trouble and you cannot find your stitches, it's okay. You can fake it. You can just make sure you're anchoring that single crochet down to that previous round. And as long as you end up with 61, this pattern will work. But definitely I suggest take your time and feel for your stitches. As you continue to work this pattern, it becomes easier and easier. So I'm just going to keep working my single crochets. So when I get to the end of this round, I should have 61. So just keep working, or you can pause the video here, and when we come back, I'll be at the end of this round. As you can see here, I'm coming up to the end of this round. I'm working my single crochets. Then I'm just going to slip stitch to my first stitch to complete this round. Now, if you've made it this far, you basically have the pattern down. Now we begin the pattern repeat, where you just repeat rounds 2 through 4 until you've reached your desired height of your beanie. So now I'm going to start back at round 2, where I chain 2 and work my double crochet. Then I'm going to skip a stitch and work my cluster B stitch. So I'm going to work this round, then after that I'll work the go for faux round, and then I'll do my single crochets, and then I'll do another round like this. So you're just going to keep building up and up until you've reached your desired height of your beanie, and I have sizing suggestions listed in the pattern, and you can find that on my blog or in the PDF in my shops. But go ahead and keep working, and when we come back, I'll show you how to finish off and close this beanie. Alright, as you can see here, I've been working my repeating rounds, and I'm right at 10 inches, and that's where I want to be for this beanie because I think it looks best. Now, I recommend that you end on a round 2, and that's right where I'm at. But before we fasten off, we're going to do one more round. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, single crochet, then work another single crochet, and work a single crochet decrease after that, and repeat that all the way around. Now you can work a normal single crochet decrease if you want to, or you can just skip the stitch. Nobody will be able to tell because we're going to sew this up after we get done with this round. So do whatever you find easiest, but it's single crochet decrease, and you're going to just work that all the way around. Alright, so I'm coming up to the end of this round, and for those of you who may be wondering, I did a spray tan, so that's why my hands are orange. Yeah, I've been at home, so spray tan's been the way to go, and it does not look good on camera after the first day. I'm just now realizing that. Okay, so back to this. I've done all my single crochet decreases, slip stitch your first stitch, then you fasten off. Now we're going to get our yarn needle, and we are going to sew up this beanie so it will be complete. Okay, now using that excess yarn that we had, we're going to go ahead and thread our yarn needle, and then we are going to sew this beanie closed. And by doing that, we're going to take our yarn needle and go back and forth into every single stitch all the way around. So if I go in this way for this stitch, I'm coming out the other way, the opposite way for the next stitch. And you're just going to do this back and forth all the way around until you get to your first stitch, and then you're going to pull it really, really tight. Now when that happens, you'll be left with a small hole, and that's okay. We're just going to go ahead and use that excess yarn that we have, and we're going to sew up that small hole. So just keep working this all the way around, and when we come back, I'll show you how to sew up that hole. Alright, as you can see here, I do have this small hole as I'm pulling it really, really tight. You don't want to go too tight, you don't want to break the yarn, but cinch it closed, and there's going to be a small little hole there. And although I'm going to put a palm over the top of this beanie, I still like to close up this hole just by sewing it shut using that excess yarn. And after I do that, I'm just going to make a knot and put that excess yarn down into the center of the hat, and then from there I'll make another knot on the inside and weave in that tail. Alright, once your beanie's done, this is what it should look like. This is the Xtra and Fabulous beanie, otherwise known as the Xtra AF beanie. And yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I am at Hooked Up Crochet. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I have a Facebook group. Definitely check out the blog. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon with another free pattern. Bye!